There's really no way around it. Taking exams can be stressful and sometimes can just suck. And so here's a few tips to make them a little bit better. My name is Timothy Dillinger and I'm a first-year medical student in the United States, and I am very familiar with taking lots of exams through my undergrad, through my post-bac program that I did, as well as during medical school itself, taking the MCAT before going into medical school. And so very familiar with these high-intensity moments where you just need to take what you've learned over the past months or weeks and put it into practice and get answers right on exams. And so there's definitely exam taking techniques that I can go into, but this video is mostly going to focus on kind of the extra things, the things of managing your stress, of staying sane during the process of studying in weeks leading up to the exam, and then just how to approach exams in general and how to approach studying. So this video is mostly going to be talking about those things. And it should be pretty obvious. I don't think I need to tell you why it's important to do well on exams, but definitely even leading up to the exam, how you approach things, how you manage your stress, how you just think about thinking will drastically affect how well you actually perform on the exam yourself. I just take for instance someone who goes into an exam high stress, just crammed for the past 48 hours, really no sleep, and they go in and they try and take an exam versus somebody who is a bit lower stress, still stressed. Taking exams is just a stressful moment, but the appropriate amount of stress. Now I'll show a curve here where you can see that there's levels of stress that improve your ability and there's levels of stress that decrease your ability of performing well. And so we want to be on that middle of the curve where we are appropriately stressed, but we're not overtly stressed. And because that'll affect our performance. Someone who comes into an exam, you can have the same amount of hours. You can have two people, 48 hours of studying over the past week or two, but someone who is high stress is going to perform less than the person who is appropriately stressed. And so our goal, the goal of this video, is to come up with tips and tricks for how to be appropriately stressed for exams at a level that are going to improve your cognitive ability and ultimately improve your performance on the exam. So today I want to talk about three main points. The first one is going to be how to manage your stress leading up to an exam. The second one is going to be how to think about thinking at a very brief, short level. And then the third one is going to be kind of the overall perspective as we approach an exam, how we can get intrinsic motivation to continue to study even when it's challenging. So let's go ahead and get started. Stress has a big part in how you actually perform while studying as well as on your actual exams themselves. And so as you think about ways to manage your stress to bring it down into an appropriate level where it is motivating to you, it is encouraging you to study, there is a healthy amount of stress where you being stressed about the exam will increase your performance in order to study more. It's pretty obvious that when you're stressed about the score that you're going to get on an exam or whether you're even going to pass your first chemistry class, that being stressed about it to some degree is going to kind of increase your motivation. It's going to give you motivation to study more. And so we want to make sure that we keep it in the appropriate level. There's definitely test anxiety and other overt stresses that can cause you to perform negatively. And so that's why we want to think about stress management. One easy tip for stress management is just being mindful. So this is kind of the idea of mindfulness, or meditation is another word for it. Just being cognitively aware of your surroundings, of the present moment, of your internal state, of your feelings and emotions. And so there's apps online that you can use to help you meditate. And so this can just be a few minutes in the morning, or this can be kind of reflecting at the end of the day, why am I so stressed? What is stressful? What are things that I have not covered enough that I need to? And so being mindful rather than just kind of feeling the stress ball and this high emotion, running around just studying and being stressed. Instead, kind of taking moments to reflect on our day, taking moments to be mindful of the things that we're happy about, the things that went well, the things that we appreciate about our day, whether that's a friend who said something kind, or your spouse pals who supported you while you're studying. These are all things of being mindful of the things that we do have can help kind of reduce your stress to some degree. One easy tip for practicing mindfulness is called caged breathing. Real quick, while I was editing this video afterwards, I realized that I kept calling it caged breathing, but it's actually called box breathing. It's the same exact idea. Everything I describe is actually box breathing. I just wanted to give you a heads up that, again, it's not caged breathing, it's box breathing. Back to the video. That's when you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe out over 4 seconds, and then you hold that for 4 seconds. And so what that practically looks like is this. So that actually activates your parasympathetic response, which is just a fancy way of saying that it tells your body that you should be in this state of relaxation, of digestion. You can think about it. And so we used to think that that was all like internal and then that'll send signals to your body, but you can actually intentionally change the way that you breathe to send signals to your brain. And so your brain will see your decreased respiratory rate and will actually think at a simple level that, oh, I'm supposed to be relaxed right now. And so all the other symptoms that you kind of associate with feeling stressed, high heart rate, things like that, will actually decrease. And so you do this caged breathing over, I think, like 10 sessions or so. So you would do kind of 10 sets of the breathing in, holding, breathing out, and then holding. And so if you can find that if you do that, especially in states of stress, that'll actually decrease your sympathetic response and will bring you more to a point of relaxation. The next thing is getting into this, but many people, when they feel stressed about studying, the first thing to go is sleep. So I'm just gonna study harder, I'm gonna cram, I'm gonna drink some energy drinks, I'm gonna get 4 hours of sleep the night before, and then wake up really early, study some more, and then go into the exam. And actually what they found is that people that get an appropriate amount of sleep, especially the night before an exam, do better. And so this is something that you'll just need to be intentional of, that you can give yourself permission that as long as you worked hard during the day, you can actually take enough time to give your body time to unwind, relax, sleep, and process the things that your brain does. And so one practical step that you could do is just set a timer that, oh, okay, at 10 o'clock, I'm gonna be done studying, and give yourself permission to do that. You'll need to obviously work hard for the rest of the day. So if you're preparing for an exam in a few days, you'll definitely want to kind of amp up your studying during the day. But, around 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever that time is for you, to make sure you get enough sleep, go ahead and just give yourself permission to, okay, I have worked hard enough the rest of the day. It is okay for me to go and take some rest, especially the night before. I basically always get around 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And that's just something that I've put into my schedule where I'm saying, okay, nope, at this amount of time, I'm gonna go to bed. When my wife goes to bed, I'm gonna also go to bed. And that's just kind of a barrier that I've set for myself to give myself permission to relax. And this has really, I think, helped me in my academic pursuits. Another way of having stress management is going to be socialization. And so while you're in the thick of things, you may feel like, I don't even have time to go use the restroom. How am I gonna go and get enough time to go and spend time with my friends? And so there's definitely an element where it may look a little bit different. You may not be going out and spending time at a coffee shop for several hours just chatting with friends if you're in the thick of studying, especially with like an exam coming up in the next few days. But you definitely can spend time to intentionally get the social support that you need to give you back into the right mindset to enter into the exam. So this could be as simple as when you're driving to work, go ahead and use like a Bluetooth or something like that, hands-free, and just call somebody from your family or a close friend maybe you haven't caught up with, and just chat with them about something not related to school. And so that'll definitely enable you to have a life a little bit outside of academics, which is always good, but also will just kind of bring you back out of like stress and spiraling and being overwhelmed. Point number 2 is going to be how we actually think about studying. And so this isn't going to be an in-depth video on how to study well, but as you get closer to the exam, let's say you're in a semester-long program, and so you have a cumulative exam at the very end of the semester, the techniques that you're going to use, especially the couple weeks leading up to the exam, are going to be different than what you did at the beginning. So at the beginning, you're learning the material, content reviewing, you're reviewing your notes, you're doing flashcards, things like that. But near the end of the semester, you're really wanting to highlight, what do I actually not know? I think that a lot of people, me included, approach studying near the end of the exam reinforcing the things that we already know because that feels comfortable. But really the point of the end of the semester is not reinforcing what you know. You should definitely reinforce those things, but we should spend most of our time on where we are lacking. Identifying areas where we just don't know enough. And so then that can be kind of tailor our studying near the end of the semester towards what we should be focusing on. And so one way that I do this is by using active learning. And so that's a big category of active learning versus passive learning. So in short, passive learning is looking at something and you're saying, oh, I get this, I understand it. You read a paragraph in the textbook and you say, I get that. Active learning is basically a question. What is the 3-letter abbreviation for some amino acid? I'm not studying for the MCAT anymore. I don't know that stuff anymore. If you're studying for the MCAT, you might. But basically, it's requiring you to take information that's inside your brain and just spit it out. And the benefit of doing this versus doing the passive learning is that basically every exam is going to be active learning. They're going to ask you a question that requires you to just know the answer. You know, what is the parasympathetic nervous system? What does it do? What are the different paths? What cranial nerves do this or that? And so these things are active learning where you actually are testing yourself to see, do I know this? You can't really get by. You can't like say, oh, like I think I know it. Like you either know it or you don't know it. So one way to do this will be flashcards. You can do practice problems, especially if you're professors or other people have given like test prep questions. So like if there's like any mock exams or anything like that in your curriculum, you can use those to study and just see if you know the answers. And the things that you don't know, if you go to a question, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even recognize the words in the question. I've been there. And basically that is going to prompt you to say, oh, I need to study this area. Another short tip is to set goals. And so as you do this active learning and you say, oh, I need to study this and I need to study this, just set a goal for yourself. So that may be as simple as, okay, in these next 2 hours, I'm going to study this topic that I got a couple questions wrong on, or I really don't understand this like at all. So I'm going to review my notes and then do some practice problems or flashcards about that. And so this will help kind of structure your time so you're not just kind of overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, I need to know everything from the semester. And while that's probably true, you already know a lot of it. And so the last few weeks is really focused on, okay, like I need to know all of this, but what do I not know right now that I know I don't know, so I know that I need to study it. What? That sounds like a confusing sentence, but basically just identify what you don't know and set time frames in your schedule where you're saying, I'm gonna study this specific topic. I'm gonna study these 5 pages in the biology textbook and do 30 practice problems on it, or 30 flashcards, or I'm gonna write some flashcards about the amino acid abbreviations, and then I'm gonna study those over the next 2 weeks. So when I get to the exam, I know them, and I know that I know them. And the last key principle is just remember your why. So remember the big picture. I don't think that you went into college or med school or whatever program you're in to study. Nobody does that. Nobody thinks, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I get to take an exam and then go and take another exam and take another exam and then pay a bunch of money in tuition just so I can take exams. Like that's not why people do things. And so as you think about your why, that's going to reinforce kind of your motivation to get there and give you this intrinsic motivation to kind of persevere even when things get really crappy, when you feel super overwhelmed, when you feel like you just aren't getting something, when you feel like you're gonna just fail med school or fail whatever program you're in. The why is what will give you the energy and the oomph to get over those awful periods and to continue to persevere in your studying. But reflect on why you're here. Reflect on your medical school path and why you want to become a physician. Remember your personal statement that you wrote about. If you're in a nursing program, remember the patients that you want to take care of, the families that you want to change their lives. If you're in a business field, then remember the motivation of wanting to generate wealth, wanting to generate profits, but also wanting to generate a product that customers are gonna love, that you're gonna improve the lives of thousands of people through your future career. And so this is a big part. I don't know what your why is, but you need to just reflect on, why are you here? Why did I wanna do this? Because there were reasons. There were reasons, and those can be your internal motivation to persevere through, to really get and just grind through and get through the studying, because there is life outside of this program. There's life past the exam. And so just continue on, continue to remind yourself of why you're here, and use that to fuel your study over the coming weeks. So if you want a practical next step for you, watching this video up here on the Pomodoro technique is just a study technique that you can use to be hyper focused, to be able to study, and in my opinion, it will enable you to study for long periods of time. And if this video was helpful for you, you can go ahead and like it and subscribe it down below. I will have other study tips coming out in the coming weeks, and videos on how to improve retention, how to use Anki, as well as how to improve your performance on academics.